Welcome to the first ever show of Off the Bench, your new favorite fantasy football podcast, completely dedicated to bring you the best picks, the best waiver wire options, and you know what? It might just help you not get last place this year. Yeah, you know who I'm talking to. You know exactly who you are. Your friends probably think of some sick punishment. They spend all their time thinking about what they're going to do to punish you. They don't even think about their picks. They're just thinking about what sick thing they're going to have you do this season when you end up last place. This time, you're not going to be last place. Damn it, you're going to make the playoffs, okay? So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, but enough of that noise. It's draft day. The football season is upon us, and everybody's scrambling, wondering, how is my team going to do? Well, I'm doing y'all the favor of recording my draft, my strategy, so then maybe you can get kind of an idea of where you could be headed. Now, with my first pick in this year's draft, I went ahead and drafted Josh Jacobs. Okay, now, I will admit I was a little bit jaded that my boy Austin Eckler got chosen because that would have been by far my first pick. I mean, I was coming in at the 10th pick out of a 12-team league. You know, I had the 10th pick, so, you know, not like I had the best options, but I'll tell you what, Josh Jacobs is one hell of a player. Okay, he ended the 2019 season with over 1,000 yards on the ground and 7 touchdowns. And that honestly isn't that wowing. It's not that great. However, he was the 4th ranked running back with the most carries in the league. And in fantasy football, carries equal points. Okay, the only running backs that were ahead of him in carries was Derrick Henry, Zeke, and Nick Chubb. Okay, and those guys are just absolute workhorses whose the whole offense runs through them. But I think Josh Jacobs ends up becoming that guy for the Las Vegas Raiders, okay? He, John Gruden actually really likes this guy. And when John Gruden likes you, if you're on the Raiders, you're going to get some carries. You're going to get some opportunities. And I think that's what's going to be happening with Josh Jacobs. The guy's only 22 years old, okay? And he is definitely going to be the franchise player for Las Vegas. It's not like Devontae Booker is going to come in and end up taking all of his reps. Like, Josh Jacobs is an absolute beast, all right? And he's going to continue to dominate in the running game in Las Vegas. So I have no problems taking Josh Jacobs with the 10th overall pick. I think he's going to be a great running back, simply put. Now, with my second pick in the draft, I went ahead and I picked George Kittle. And a lot of people scoff at the aspect of picking a tight end in the second round, okay? But these people do not understand the phenomenon that is George Kittle, okay? This guy is 6'4", 250 pounds, and he runs a 4.5 40, okay? The way I look at it, Kittle is the focal point of the offense that just went to the Super Bowl last season. And that entire offense is built upon Kittle's playmaking ability. Yeah, sure, it's very run heavy, but guess what? You hit that play action and you get Kittle wide open down the seam. The guy that's 6'4", 250 running a 4.5, I like those odds, okay? And it's not like Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have a hard time getting it to him. All right, the kid's a stud. And, you know, the only area where he lacked was in touchdowns, which he only had 5 last season, but he also had 85 receptions and over 1,000 yards receiving. So I think he just looks to improve upon that touchdown number and easily becomes the most dominant tight end in the league. I mean, the only other guys in the discussion are Travis Kelce and, maybe Zach Ertz. But Kelce's, he's 30 now. He'll be 31 in October. He's not getting any younger. And Kittle is just an absolute dominant performance coming into his dominant player, not performance, but he's coming into his prime at 26 years old. And I mean, in my opinion, is going to be easily the best tight end in the league. Now, with my third pick, okay, I went ahead and I selected Cortland Sutton. Now, as much as I hate to admit it, as a Chargers fan, Cortland Sutton is as much as a cash in the bank situation as you're going to get. Okay, he's a huge presence on the outside, standing at 6'4". He runs a 4.5, just like Kittle, but he is also one of the best route runners in the NFL. Okay, last season he ended with 72 receptions, over 1,000 yards receiving, and 6 touchdowns. And a lot of people are worried about, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, why are they drafting all these receivers? In my mind, this is a situation where the more the merrier in Denver. Okay, the arrival of Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler is just going to be an opportunity for Cortland Sutton to get more one-on-one opportunities on the outside. All right, I don't think all of a sudden Jerry Jeudy is going to come in and start gobbling up all these reps. Okay, Cortland Sutton is not to be underestimated. Now, with my fourth round pick, I did have to practice some restraint, okay, because I would have picked Keenan Allen in the third round. I mean, I had my finger on the trigger ready to pick Keenan Allen, but I thought, you know what? I'm anticipating the disrespect. Okay, I'm anticipating the disrespect here with Keenan Allen, with the quarterback situation. Phillip Rivers is leaving. Tyrod Taylor is the starter. Maybe Justin Herbert, who's a rookie. Who knows? Keenan Allen. Listen, okay. The fact remains, Keenan Allen is probably the best, okay, if not one of the best route runners in the NFL today. Okay, he knows how to get open better than anybody in the league. And Tyrod Taylor is not some chump, all right? Yeah, is he Phillip Rivers? Maybe not. But I think Keenan Allen makes Tyrod Taylor look a lot better. And I think this Chargers offense is gonna be better than what people, are anticipating. And you can call me biased. I don't mind. But as long as Keenan Allen can stay injury-free and he can stay healthy, he's going to be a top 10 fantasy asset, regardless of who's at quarterback. Okay? He gets open. He finds a way to get the ball in his hands. All right? Add on the fact that he just signed a juicy $80 million contract extension, making him the second highest paid receiver in the league. I mean, I think he's in store for yet a dominant season. Now, fifth round pick in the draft, kind of an interesting one. I went with Raheem Mostert. Honestly, I don't know how to say his name, but I do know how to read his stats. Okay, Mostert ended the 2019 campaign with 137 carries, 772 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He also added 2 touchdowns on the receiving end and just off 14 receptions. Now, one stat that really jumps out to me is his efficiency on the ground. I mean, this guy's averaging 6 yards per carry, which is by far the best among running backs with 150 plus carries. I mean, the guy's getting yards every time he touches the ball. Now, the one area he could look to improve upon is his role in the passing game. I mean, he only saw 22 targets in 2019, but you know what? He also had 2 touchdowns, which, I mean, that average is great. This guy knows how to make plays. And in Kyle Shanahan's offense, super run heavy. I mean, that offense was running all the way to the Super Bowl, okay? Take away Deebo Samuel and Kittle, and essentially it is entirely running. So I have no problem drafting Mostert. I think he has an opportunity to really break out this season as the 49ers lead back. Now, 6th round pick. I really like this pick because I picked T.Y. Hilton. All right, T.Y. Hilton, there's a few reasons why T.Y. Hilton was a steal in the 6th round. And I'll tell you the one that I really care to mention. And that happens to do with the guy whose name is on the back of my jersey currently, and that's Phillip Rivers. Okay, the one thing T.Y. Hilton has been missing in Indianapolis since Andrew Luck's departure is a guy that will launch him the rock down the field. And I've got news for you. Phillip Rivers is that guy. Just ask Keenan Allen. Phillip Rivers would throw him the ball deep, even at the cost of some interceptions. But he didn't care. He loves giving his wide receivers the opportunity to go and grab that ball. And want to know something else? One thing that Rivers will be getting in Indianapolis that he rarely had with the Chargers is a good and healthy offensive line. Now, I challenge anyone to watch tape of Phillip Rivers when he has time in the pocket And the only result is touchdowns, plain and simple. You give Phillip Rivers time to set his feet. He's one of the most accurate passers to ever play the game. I mean, you give him time and he will be getting touchdowns to whoever's on the field. All right, he doesn't need to have the best receivers. But guess what? T.Y. Hilton, he's in the discussion. I mean, he's old. He's, 31, something like that. But he's a veteran, but he can get down the field and get open. He's fast, great route runner. And I think the Phillip Rivers T.Y. Hilton connection is going to be really, really something special. I mean, this guy's going to be getting more Hail Marys than Pope Francis on a Sunday afternoon, and that's a guarantee. Now, with the 7th round pick in the draft, I went ahead and I got Drew Brees, okay? Drew Brees is going to be my starting quarterback for a lot of reasons. Remove the fact that I'm personally a huge fan of Drew Brees. He's one of the most accurate QBs to ever play the game. He holds the all-time NFL records for most passing career yards, most career completions, and most consecutive seasons of 30-plus touchdown passes at 9 consecutive seasons. I mean, you can't make numbers like that up. This guy's an absolute tank, and he's just one of the best to ever do it. And statistically speaking, he has the best wide receiver in the league in Michael Thomas. He has an elite running back in Alvin Kamara, and he has a great offensive line. I mean, he has all the tools that he needs to post another dominant season. And yeah, sure, he's 41 years old. He's an old guy. But we don't expect him to be running around to make plays anyways. As long as that line can give him some time in the pocket, Brees is going to maintain it, and he's going to throw the rock down the field and make plays. Besides, Drew is just an awesome dude and a great leader. And if any football fan, if you're a football fan, you should read his autobiography, Coming Back Stronger, if you really want to learn how a true champion overcomes adversity. Because, I mean, this guy, he's had a lot thrown at him, but every year he comes back and he comes back stronger. So I have no problems drafting him in the 7th round, and he's going to be my QB, that simply put, he's going to be my QB. Now, all right. Onto the bench now. So we're moving into bench territory. In the 8th round, I selected Phillip Lindsay, who is going to be a great bench option for me. People are wary about the addition of Melvin Gordon, okay? And I get it. All right, 2 elite running backs in one backfield could be a problem. However, as a Chargers fan, let me tell you, Melvin Gordon's going to be spending more time complaining about his hamstrings than getting in the end zone, and that's just a fact. Okay? It's just a fact. He's kind of a diva. He finds issues, and Phillip Lindsay's kind of the opposite. He's a workhorse. You get him the ball and he gets you yards. He gets you touchdowns. I mean, Phillip Lindsay has been quietly posting some awesome fantasy seasons and kind of going under the radar. So I still think he's the, RB1 in that Denver offense, and I definitely think he's going to be getting more touches than Melvin Gordon. Maybe not in the passing game, but for sure on the ground. For sure on the ground. Now, 9th round pick. I select Golden Tate, which by no means is a glamorous pick. All right, the Giants already have a crowded wide receiver core, with Sterling Shepard being the clear number 1 option. However, I do think Daniel Jones is a bit better than people give him credit for. And given the fact that most teams will be solely concerned with stopping Saquon Barkley, I think Golden Tate's going to be a fine 2nd or 3rd option for a young QB who's going to really benefit from the presence of a veteran wide receiver. So, honestly, Golden Tate might be a little bit of a sleeper pick. I think in a PPR league where you're getting points for every time someone catches a ball, I think Golden Tate is going to actually pull his weight for sure. So great 9th round pick in my opinion. 10th round pick. I'm gonna have to explain the terminology of a handcuff to anyone out there that doesn't understand. But a handcuff player is a player that they're essentially their fantasy value is almost completely dependent upon the starter getting hurt or missing time. And what Tevin Coleman is to me is my handcuff running back. Given that I drafted the starting running back in Mostert, drafting Tevin Coleman, I basically have all but secured the entire running game of the 49ers, which, by the way, was one of the best teams on the ground last season with over 2,000 yards and 19 touchdowns. So, in the event that Mostert gets hurt or misses time, I can easily plug in Coleman, and he's going to gobble up all those carries. Now, if you look at this pick just as it stood alone, it's not a great pick. Oh, Tevin Coleman, he's just one of those guys in the depth chart that might not be getting a ton of hype. But when you look at my strategy of, I'm essentially locking down the entire 49ers offense. I drafted Kittle. I drafted Mostert. As you'll see, I drafted Brandon Aiyuk later in the draft. What I'm doing is I'm taking one of the best offenses in the NFL, one of the most efficient offenses in the NFL, and I'm filling out my team with them. Now, for the 11th round, I drafted Alexander Madison, and I don't have a ton to say about this guy besides the fact that he's one of the best handcuff options in the league. I mean, he's behind Dalvin Cook, who is seemingly pretty injury prone lately. I mean, I think that's a safe assumption to make. If Dalvin Cook gets hurt, this guy's going to be launched into prime fantasy output. Really great prospect, in my opinion. But I mean, as long as Dalvin Cook's on the field, his value's limited to say the least. So I might end up dropping him. Who knows? But for now, if Dalvin Cook gets injured, he'll be a great play. Definitely hot off the waivers if that's the case. 12th round, I went ahead and I selected Paris Campbell. And, when I saw Paris Campbell was available in the 12th round, I figured, why not? This dude runs a 4.3 40. And he's never really gotten the looks he deserves, mostly because of injury. I mean, he's a young guy. He's young, he's talented, and he, most definitely will be the second option behind T.Y. Hilton. And with the addition of Phillip Rivers in that roster, there's going to be a lot of downfield passes, all right? There just will be. And when you're running a 4.3 40 and T.Y. Hilton's taking away a lot of the pressure on the double teams, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Paris Campbell to score points. And he might not be a glamorous pick, but he's definitely a pick that I'm okay with. And sometimes in fantasy, you have to build your team around successful offenses instead of just building your team around, successful players per se. So, guess what? In case T.Y. Hilton, he's getting a little older, if he gets hurt, boom, that catapults Paris Campbell into Phillip Rivers' number one receiver. And then he's a prime prospect. So you got to keep these things in mind when you're drafting, when you're on the waivers. You got to be thinking ahead. You got to be thinking strategically in these situations. Now, for the 13th round, as I mentioned before, I picked up Brandon Aiyuk. Once again, a player whose name I cannot pronounce, but nonetheless, he's a very interesting pick. He was the 25th player drafted in April, and he showcased great speed and route running capability at ASU. I don't think this guy has a breakout season behind Kittle and Deebo Samuel. And also the fact that the 49ers offense is super run heavy anyways, but he definitely has the potential to do that. He does have the potential to be a number one wide receiver, in my opinion. So there's no harm in drafting him and waiting to see how he turns out. Now, for the 14th round, I'm sure you all could have seen this coming, but I drafted Phillip Rivers as my backup QB. And honestly, it's a little disrespectful that this guy is probably going to go undrafted in most leagues. People aren't going to trust him. They're going to think he's prone to interceptions, which he might be. Phillip Rivers, as I said, is a guy that loves to throw the ball down the field. But what it also means with the Colts' talented offensive line is he's going to have time to find the open man. He's not going to be throwing blindly into the defense as he had to do a lot of times on the Chargers. I mean, the Chargers for the past few seasons have been basically using the waiver wire to fill up their offensive line. These guys are not prime, linemen by any sort of the imagination. In Indianapolis, Phillip Rivers is going to have an opportunity to have that great offensive line, have a couple weapons, and then you look at they added Jonathan Taylor in the draft. I mean, this offense isn't going to be a joke. And in fact, I think the whole Colts team isn't going to be a joke, and I think they're going to be a contender. And that might be a hot take. I don't know. I think they have a good young defense. I think they have some studs on offense. And I think Phillip Rivers he's the type of competitor he's not going to give up. He wants that Super Bowl, and he's going to really fight for it in Indianapolis. And you know what? I'm wearing his jersey still. All the love in the world to Phillip Rivers. I hope he does great. And if I'm a betting man, I bet the Colts make the playoffs. Weird. Yeah, I know. A lot of people will disagree with me. I don't care. I think the Colts are a great team, and they're going to be underestimated this season. 15th round, I went ahead and I selected the Money Badger, Michael Badgley, to be my kicker. And I mean, I knew Michael Badgley was going to be my kicker from the start of this draft. And when he was available in round 15, it's an obvious pick. I mean, he solved the Chargers' kicking woes. I mean, for the past few seasons, the Chargers have had a ton of problems kicking field goals. But he has great accuracy. He has decent power. And let's face it, he's got a whole lot of swag. This dude got a whole lot of swag. And he's bringing that swag to the kicking game that, you don't typically see from kickers, but it sure is fun when you do. And honestly, I think the Chargers offense will be kicking a lot of field goals during this transition from Phillip Rivers to Tyrod Taylor, or maybe even Justin Herbert. We don't quite know yet, but pretty much Tyrod Taylor. I plan on capitalizing on all those field goal attempts. I think Michael Badgley knocks him down, and I think he's one of the top fantasy kickers this season. Finally, with my last pick, the 16th round pick. Last but certainly not least, I drafted the Buccaneers defense and special teams. Frankly, I was kind of surprised that they were still on the board in the last round. I mean, this defense was a great defense last season, even with the atrocious number of turnovers that offense had. I mean, the Buccaneers offense, with Jameis Winston, the blind bat at quarterback, I mean, they were turning the ball over all the time, and somehow the defense still kept them in games. So when you look at the fact that Tom Brady is now taking the reins in Tampa, I mean, look, simply put, Tom Brady knows how to do two things very well. Okay, he knows how to control the time of possession, and he knows how to limit turnovers. And honestly, in fantasy, it's not so much how good the defense is. A lot of times it's the style of the offense that is accompanying them. And with Tom Brady, that his sort of pace of offense, I mean, you take a look at the Patriots defense last year, and I know you have to credit a lot of that to Bill Belichick, and okay, I agree. However, Tom Brady is a big part of that too. I mean, he knows how to control the game. He knows how to keep his offense on the field, and he knows how to score points, something Jameis Winston didn't quite do very well. And you couple that with the fact that the Bucs actually has a really good defensive unit, I think that they're going to be one of the best fantasy defenses in the league. And I'm surprised they were available, but I went ahead and took them. I mean, in the first week, I think they play the Saints, which isn't obviously the best matchup. But I think down the line, you can't go wrong with playing the Buccaneers. You really can't. So that concludes the first episode of Off the Bench. I know we're all excited for football season, even with COVID flying around like pigeons in New York City. But just stay tuned, and I'll bring updates from my personal fantasy season as well as possible waiver wire options for your team. I think we're gonna have a fun season. I hope it happens. I mean, knock on wood. I really think that the country needs football right now, and a lot of people may disagree with me. They may think I'm selfish for saying that, but I do think that sports bring together people unlike anything else, really, especially in this country. So I'm hopeful for the season, and I'm excited to be documenting my progress. And I do think at the end of the season I will be on top. But we'll see. Thank you for watching, and tune in next week.